Hello there. How are you tonight? Before we begin, gently dim the lights, settle into a comfortable position, and allow the noise of the day to slowly fade away. Tonight's journey is best experienced in calm and quiet, and if you enjoy these slow, slightly mysterious stories from the past, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. So there's always another relaxing history story waiting for you when sleep feels just out of reach, and let me know in the comments. Where are you watching from tonight? It's always fascinating to see how many different parts of the world gather together to listen to these quiet stories from the past. Now, imagine waking up in a vast and powerful empire. A place of grand architecture, crowded streets, and endless activity. This is the world of the Roman Empire. At first glance, it might seem impressive, even exciting, but what if you had to live there? Without modern comforts, without safety, and without certainty, from dangerous streets and collapsing buildings to disease, exhausting labor, and constant noise. Daily life could be far more difficult than we imagine. Tonight, we will slowly explore why surviving even a single day in this ancient world would be more challenging than it appears. So relax. Take a deep breath. And let's quietly step into the unpredictable life of the Roman Empire. The first thing you notice is the sound, not a gentle morning breeze, not the quiet hum of a distant city, but a constant, restless noise that never truly fades. Voices echo through narrow streets. Vendors call out their goods. Wooden carts rattle loudly over uneven stone roads. Somewhere nearby, metal strikes against metal in a steady rhythm, even before your eyes fully open. The world around you is already awake. You are no longer in your own bed. Instead, you find yourself in a small, dimly lit room. The air heavy, slightly warm, and carrying unfamiliar scents. The walls are rough, the ceiling low. There is little space to move. Outside, the city of Rome stretches endlessly, its buildings stacked tightly together. Its streets alive with movement. This is not the Rome of polished marble statues and grand monuments that history books often show. That version exists, but only for a few. For most people, Rome is crowded, loud, and unpredictable. As you slowly sit up, the reality begins to settle in. There is no electricity, no running water waiting at a turn of a handle, no quiet moment of privacy. Everything you do today will require effort, and everything around you carries a small, quiet risk. Step outside, and the scale of the empire becomes overwhelming. Buildings rise above you, some several stories tall, leaning slightly as if tired from holding themselves up for too long. Laundry hangs between windows, gently swaying. Faces appear briefly, then disappear again. The streets are narrow, often uneven. People move quickly, brushing past each other without pause. There is no personal space here, no silence, only movement. In the distance, you might catch a glimpse of something extraordinary, a towering temple, its columns glowing softly in the morning light, an aqueduct stretching across the horizon, carrying water from faraway hills, or perhaps the faint outline of the Colosseum, standing as a symbol of Roman power. For a moment, it feels almost beautiful, almost peaceful, but that feeling does not last long, because beneath that beauty, there is a different reality. The ground beneath your feet is not always clean, the air is not always fresh, and the systems that keep this massive city alive are far from perfect. You begin to understand something important. Rome is not designed for comfort. It is designed for survival. As the sun slowly rises higher, the heat begins to build, shadows shrink, the streets grow more crowded, the noise becomes louder, heavier, more constant, and you realize this is only the beginning of the day. You haven't eaten yet, you haven't found clean water, you don't know where you'll go, or what dangers might be waiting just around the next corner. And yet, millions of people lived like this every single day. They woke up to this world, they adapted to it, they survived it, some even thrived within it, but for someone unfamiliar, someone used to comfort, safety, and quiet, this world would feel overwhelming, unpredictable, and quietly exhausting. So as we continue this journey, as we move deeper into the streets, the homes, and the hidden corners of the Roman Empire, ask yourself one simple question, not as a distant observer of history, but as someone standing within it: could you truly survive a single day here? The morning does not begin gently. There is no slow silence, no peaceful stillness easing you into the day. Instead, you are pulled awake by sound. Voices, loud and overlapping, echo through the narrow streets below. Wooden wheels grind harshly against stone. Somewhere nearby, a man shouts, his voice sharp and impatient. Another answers, louder still, the city is already alive, and it does not wait for you. You open your eyes fully now, the dim room from the night before slowly coming into focus. The air feels heavier this morning, warmer, carrying the faint scent of smoke and something less familiar. There is no comfort in the bed beneath you. The surface is firm, unyielding. The thin fabric offers little softness. And already, the heat of the rising day begins to settle into the room, trapped within thick stone walls that hold warmth long after the sun appears. Outside, the noise grows, it builds steadily. Like a tide that never retreats, you stand and move toward the small opening that serves as a window. From here, the city reveals itself more clearly. The street below is narrow, far narrower than anything you might be used to. Buildings rise high on either side, their upper levels leaning slightly inward, as if drawn together over time. Laundry hangs between them, still damp, swaying faintly in the morning air. People are already moving in every direction. There is no order to it, only flow. A cart passes beneath you, its wooden wheels striking uneven stones with a rhythm that feels almost violent in its repetition. The driver urges his animal forward with sharp calls, barely slowing as pedestrians step aside at the last possible moment. No one seems surprised. This is normal here. As you step outside, the sounds become overwhelming. They are no longer distant or softened by walls. They surround you. Conversations, arguments, footsteps, animals, the constant creaking of wood, the scraping of sandals against stone. All blending into a single, unbroken layer of noise. It is not chaotic in bursts, it is constant. The street feels smaller now that you are within it. People brush past you without hesitation. There is little space, and even less patience. You are part of the movement whether you wish to be or not. A vendor calls out nearby, displaying loaves of bread on a rough wooden table. Another arranges small goods, tools, perhaps, or fragments of something once more valuable. The air is thick. Not just with heat, but with presence. So many lives, all unfolding at once, in the same confined space. A cart passes beneath you, its wooden wheels striking uneven stones with a rhythm that feels almost violent in its repetition. The driver urges his animal forward with sharp calls, barely slowing as pedestrians step aside at the last possible moment. No one seems surprised. This is normal here. As you step outside, the sounds become overwhelming. They are no longer distant or softened by walls. They surround you. Conversations, arguments, footsteps, animals, the constant creaking of wood, the scraping of sandals against stone. All blending into a single, unbroken layer of noise. It is not chaotic in bursts, it is constant. The street feels smaller now that you are within it. People brush past you without hesitation. There is little space, and even less patience. You are part of the movement whether you wish to be or not. A vendor calls out nearby, displaying loaves of bread on a rough wooden table. Another arranges small goods, tools, perhaps, or fragments of something once more valuable. The air is thick. Not just with heat, but with presence. So many lives, all unfolding at once, in the same confined space. Above you, windows open and close, voices drift downward. A bucket is emptied somewhere, though you do not see from where. The contents splash onto the street, and those nearby step away without surprise. You begin to understand something quietly unsettling. This city does not pause, it does not slow, and it does not make space for discomfort. The further you walk, the more intense the experience becomes. The streets twist and narrow, turning unexpectedly, revealing new clusters of activity at every corner. Children move quickly between adults. Animals weave through the crowd. The ground beneath your feet is uneven, worn from years of constant use. Every step requires attention. Every moment demands awareness, and yet there is something almost hypnotic about it. The repetition of movement, the rhythm of sound, the way life continues here without hesitation. It is overwhelming, but also strangely steady. As the sun climbs higher, the light shifts. It filters down into the streets in narrow beams, broken by rooftops and balconies above. Shadows stretch and shrink in irregular patterns, offering brief moments of relief from the growing heat. But the heat remains. It lingers, settling into the stones, rising again from the ground beneath you. You begin to feel it now, not just physically, but mentally. The weight of constant stimulation, the absence of quiet, the sense that there is no place to retreat. No corner untouched by the presence of others. Even standing still feels unnatural here. The city moves, and you must move with it. And this is only the morning. The day has barely begun. The noise will continue. The crowds will grow. The heat will deepen, and the city will remain exactly as it is, unforgiving, relentless, and alive. For those who were born here, this is simply life, familiar, expected. But for you, it is something else entirely, something heavier, something that slowly drains your energy, not through effort, but through constant exposure. As you pause for a moment, if only briefly, you may find yourself asking a quiet question, not out of fear, but out of realization. How long could you truly endure this before exhaustion begins to take hold? By the time night arrives, you might expect relief, a quiet ending to a long and overwhelming day, a chance to finally rest, to escape the noise, the heat, the constant presence of the city. But here, in the Roman Empire, night does not bring comfort. The light fades slowly from the sky, slipping behind the tightly packed rooftops. Shadows stretch longer, deeper, until the streets below are no longer clearly visible. Inside your room, darkness settles quickly. There are no bright lamps, no soft electric glow to ease the transition into night. Only the faint flicker of a small flame, if you are fortunate enough to have one. The walls feel closer now, the space smaller. You return to your bed. If it can be called that, it is little more than a wooden frame, or perhaps just a raised platform. Over it, a thin layer of fabric or straw has been placed, barely enough to soften the hardness beneath. There is no softness here, no cushion to welcome your body after the long day, only a surface that reminds you constantly of its presence. As you lie down, you notice how uneven it feels. Your body searches for comfort, adjusting, shifting, trying to find a position that does not press too harshly against bone and muscle, but the relief never quite comes. And then there is the sound. It never truly leaves. Even now, in the quiet of night, the city continues to breathe around you. Footsteps echo faintly outside. Voices drift through thin walls. Somewhere above, something shifts, a creak of wood, a muffled movement. You are not alone here, not even for a moment. The walls that surround you are not thick enough to protect your rest. Every sound passes through them, softened, perhaps, but still present. A cough from another room, a quiet conversation, the restless turning of someone else trying to sleep. Just as you are, it becomes clear. Privacy is not something this place can offer. The air grows warmer as the night deepens. Heat, trapped throughout the day, lingers within the stone and wood. There is little movement of air, no gentle breeze to cool the space. Instead, the room feels still, heavy, almost unmoving. You turn again, trying to settle. The fabric beneath you shifts slightly, but the hardness remains unchanged. Sleep does not come easily here, not because you are unwilling, but because your body is not at ease. Time passes slowly, without the comfort of silence, without the relief of softness. Each moment feels longer than it should. You begin to notice small details, the faint scratching sound somewhere in the corner, the uneven rhythm of breathing, not your own, the subtle movement of shadows as the small flame flickers beside you. These are not dramatic things, they are quiet, almost insignificant, and yet, together, they create a sense of restlessness, a feeling that you are never fully at peace. If you were used to comfort before, to quiet rooms, soft bedding, controlled temperature, this would feel like a slow challenge, not overwhelming in a single moment, but persistent, constant. Eventually, exhaustion begins to take over, not the peaceful kind that welcomes sleep, but a heavier form, the kind that settles in your body after long exposure to discomfort. Your eyes grow heavier, your thoughts slow, the sounds around you begin to blur together. No longer distinct, but part of a distant, steady hum, and finally, sleep comes, but it is not deep, not fully restful, it drifts. Light and fragile. Easily disturbed, a small noise, a shift in the building, a sudden voice outside. Any of these could pull you back from it, and somewhere in the quiet darkness, you begin to understand something important. Rest here is not guaranteed, it is something you must accept. Even when it is incomplete, because when morning returns, the noise will rise again, the heat will follow, the crowds will fill the streets once more, and you will wake, not fully restored, but simply ready to endure another day. So as sleep finally takes hold, you might find yourself wondering, just before drifting away, how long could you live like this? Before even rest begins to feel like a struggle? Morning returns, but it does not feel new, it feels like a continuation, a quiet extension of a restless night that never fully allowed you to recover. Your eyes open slowly, for a brief moment, there is stillness. A soft, fragile silence before the city remembers itself again. Then, as if on cue, the sounds begin, footsteps above, voices below, the distant roll of wooden wheels returning to the streets. Another day has started. You sit up, your body carrying the weight of incomplete rest. There is a stiffness in your back, a heaviness in your limbs, not pain exactly, but a quiet discomfort that lingers, refusing to fade. There is no rushing to a warm shower, no turning of a tap, no clear stream of water waiting for you. Instead, your morning begins with something far simpler and far less comfortable. In one corner of the room, a small basin rests. The water inside is still, not fresh, not warm, just there, waiting. You reach toward it slowly, the surface breaks gently as your fingers touch it, sending faint ripples across its reflection. The water is cool, not refreshing, but slightly unsettling against your skin. You wash your face with it, carefully, sparingly. Every drop matters. There is no abundance here, no sense of waste, only use and restraint. There are no mirrors to check your reflection, no clean towels waiting nearby, only a piece of cloth, simple, worn, and used many times before. It dries your skin, but not completely. A faint dampness remains. Around you, the building begins to wake. You hear movement beyond your walls, doors opening, footsteps passing closely. Someone speaking in a low, tired voice. The routine is shared, but not together. Each person moves within their own small space, following the same quiet pattern of preparation. You step outside. The morning air greets you, not fresh, but alive. It carries the early signs of the day ahead. Smoke from cooking fires beginning to rise, the scent of food, faint but present, and something else, something less pleasant, woven into the atmosphere. There are no private bathrooms waiting for you, no enclosed spaces offering comfort or dignity. Instead, the process of basic hygiene extends beyond your room, into shared areas, into public spaces, into the open rhythm of the city itself. People move with quiet familiarity. They know where to go, what to do, how to manage these small, necessary tasks without pause. For you, it feels different, less natural, more exposed. You begin to notice how little control there is in this routine, no ability to adjust temperature, no option to delay or improve the experience. Everything is fixed, shaped by what is available, not by what is comfortable. Even the simplest act, washing your face, preparing yourself for the day, requires effort, awareness, acceptance. The ground beneath your feet is uneven. The surfaces around you are worn, used by countless others before you. there is a quiet understanding here that nothing is entirely your own, and yet, this is normal. For the people who live here, this routine is not difficult. It is expected, learned from childhood, repeated without thought. But for you, it carries a subtle weight, not overwhelming, but persistent. As the sun begins to rise higher, the light spreads slowly across the buildings, golden at first. Soft and almost beautiful, it touches the stone walls, the narrow streets, the faces of those already moving through the day. For a brief moment, there is calm, a quiet pause before the full intensity of the city returns. You stand within that moment, aware of your surroundings, aware of yourself, and you begin to understand something deeper. It is not just the large challenges that make this life difficult, not just the dangers, or the risks, or the exhaustion. It is the small things, the everyday actions, the routines that offer no comfort, no ease, no relief. They do not overwhelm you all at once. They build slowly, quietly, until even the simplest morning feels like something you must endure. And as the city fully awakens once more, as the noise begins to rise again, as the streets prepare to fill, you are left with a quiet realization: how much of your strength would be spent just trying to begin the day? As the day continues, you begin to notice something about the buildings around you. At first, they seem impressive, tall, lead, rising several stories above the narrow streets below. They make the city feel dense, alive, almost endless. But the longer you look, the more something feels uncertain. These buildings, called insulae, are where most people live. They are not grand villas or carefully designed homes. They are crowded structures, built quickly, and often without the care you might expect. You stand at the base of one now, looking upward. The walls are not perfectly straight, they lean slightly, almost imperceptibly, but enough to notice if you pay attention. Wooden beams jut out from the structure. Some appear worn, others slightly warped. The upper levels seem heavier, as though they press down on everything beneath them. There is no sense of reassurance here, only a quiet question: how stable is this? Really? You step inside, the air changes immediately. It feels more enclosed, more confined. The light fades quickly as you move away from the entrance. The stairway is narrow. Wooden steps creak beneath your weight, not loudly, but enough to remind you that they are not entirely solid. You move carefully, not out of fear exactly, but out of instinct. Above you, you hear movement, footsteps, a door opening, the faint shift of weight from someone crossing the floor. The entire building seems to respond, not visibly, but subtly. A small vibration passes through the structure, a quiet reminder that everything here is connected. Every step, every movement, every moment. The higher you climb, the tighter the space becomes. Rooms grow smaller, air becomes heavier, the sounds from below fade, replaced by closer, more immediate noises. Someone speaking in the next room, a child shifting in their sleep, the soft scrape of something being moved across the floor. There are no thick walls to separate lives here, no barriers strong enough to create true privacy. You reach one of the upper levels. The ceiling is lower now. The walls feel closer, and the floor beneath you feels less certain. You pause, just for a moment, and you feel it again, that faint, almost unnoticeable shift, the building settling, or perhaps adjusting. It is not dramatic, not enough to cause panic, but enough to remind you, this place is not entirely secure. Outside, the city continues as always. People move, voices rise and fall, carts roll past without pause. But inside these walls, there is a different kind of tension, a quiet awareness, shared by everyone who lives here. Even if they no longer think about it, these buildings are not meant to last forever. They are built quickly, repaired when needed, adjusted over time, but never perfected. Sometimes, small pieces fall. A fragment of wood, a section of plaster, nothing major, just enough to be noticed, and sometimes, more than that, but no one speaks of it openly, not in the middle of a normal day. because life continues, it always does, you begin to understand something quietly unsettling. Living here means accepting a certain level of uncertainty, not just in the streets, but in the very place meant to shelter you. There is no guarantee of safety. Only probability and habit for those who have lived here their entire lives. This feeling has faded into the background. It is no longer something they actively notice, but for you, it lingers. Every creak of wood, every subtle shift beneath your feet, every glance upward at walls that do not feel entirely still, it becomes part of your awareness, constant, quiet, impossible to ignore. And as you slowly make your way back down the narrow staircase, careful with each step, listening to the sounds around you, you may find yourself wondering something simple, something calm, yet deeply unsettling. Would you ever truly feel safe living inside a place like this? By now, the city is fully awake, not gradually, but completely. The quiet moments of early morning have faded, replaced by something far more persistent, sound. It begins as layers, soft at first, almost distant, but with every step you take into the streets, it grows. Voices overlap, footsteps echo, wooden wheels grind slowly against stone, animals move through narrow paths, their presence adding to the rhythm of the day. Nothing is still, nothing is silent. You step forward, merging into the flow of people. There is no clear path, no space that belongs only to you. The street is narrow, lined with tall buildings on either side, their walls rising upward, holding the sound within them, amplifying it. It does not escape, it lingers. A cart passes nearby, its wooden frame creaking under weight. You shift slightly to make space. But space is limited. Someone brushes past your shoulder, another voice rises just behind you. There is no pause, no moment where the movement stops. It continues endlessly. You begin to notice the rhythm, not organized, not controlled, but constant. Merchants call out to passing crowds. Their voices are not loud enough to dominate, but together they create a steady hum that fills the air. Somewhere nearby, a hammer strikes metal again and again, a sharp, repeating sound that cuts through everything else, yet never fully overpowers it. The ground beneath your feet feels uneven, worn by countless steps over countless years. You adjust your footing constantly, not out of caution, but necessity. A group moves past you quickly. Their pace is different from yours, faster, more urgent. For a moment, you are pulled into their movement, carried forward slightly before regaining your balance. This is not a place where you control your pace. The crowd decides. The air feels heavier here, warmer, thicker, not because of heat alone, but because of presence. So many people, so close together, each contributing to the atmosphere in ways that cannot be separated. There is no distance, no separation between lives. Everything blends. You hear conversations that are not meant for you, fragments of words, pieces of stories, short exchanges that begin and end before you fully understand them, and yet, they stay with you, because there is no silence to replace them. You move forward slowly, not because you choose to, but because that is the only pace available. Every direction is filled, every path occupied. Even the space above feels crowded. Balconies extend outward, cloth hangs between windows, objects lean over the street, creating a sense that the buildings themselves are pressing inward. It is not suffocating, not completely, but it is constant. You begin to feel it, not as stress, but as something quieter, a subtle pressure at the edge of your awareness, the inability to escape, not from danger, not from threat, but from presence, from the endless flow of sound and movement that never truly fades. You realize something slowly, something that might not be obvious at first. It is not just the noise itself that affects you, it is the lack of silence, the absence of stillness. The idea that no matter where you go, this rhythm will follow, even in the distance. The sound does not disappear, it softens, but never fully fades. You imagine trying to rest here, trying to pause, trying to think clearly, and you begin to understand how difficult that might be. The city does not stop, it does not slow for comfort, it does not create space for quiet reflection. It simply continues, and you must continue with it. As you move through the crowded street, surrounded by voices, footsteps, and endless motion, you may find yourself wondering something simple, not about survival, not about danger, but about something even more basic: how long could you live without ever truly experiencing silence? As the day continues, and the movement of the city carries on around you, there is something you begin to notice, not immediately, not all at once, but slowly. It's in the air, a faint scent. Almost unremarkable at first: smoke, not thick, not overwhelming, just a subtle trace. Drifting gently between the buildings, you might not think much of it. After all, fires are a normal part of daily life here: cooking, heating, light. Small flames exist everywhere, inside homes, behind shop counters, in quiet corners where people go about their routines. Fire is not unusual, it is necessary, and yet, that is exactly what makes it dangerous. You walk a little further down the narrow street. The buildings rise close together on either side, their upper levels nearly touching. Wooden beams stretch across gaps, cloth hangs between windows, everything feels connected, too connected. The air grows slightly warmer, not enough to alarm you, but enough to notice. A flicker of light appears somewhere above. You glance upward. Just a small flame, contained, controlled. For now, a window is open. Inside, someone tends to a cooking fire. The flame dances softly, casting gentle shadows across the room. It looks calm, almost peaceful, but the wind shifts only slightly. The flame responds: a brief movement, a stretch, a reach beyond its usual space, and in that small moment, you begin to understand something: how little it would take. The materials around you are dry, aged wood, cloth, rope, everything that fills these streets. Built for convenience, not for safety. You continue walking, but now your awareness has changed. You notice details you might have ignored before: a torch placed too close to a wall, a cooking fire left unattended, even if only for a moment, a pile of materials stacked near a doorway, each one harmless on its own, but together, they create possibility. And in a place like this, possibility is enough. The streets remain busy, voices continue, people move without hesitation. No one seems alarmed, because for them, this is normal. Fire is part of life, and so is the risk that comes with it. You pass another building. The scent of smoke is stronger here, still not overwhelming, but present. It lingers in the air, mixing with everything else, becoming part of the environment itself. You imagine what would happen, not in a dramatic way, but quietly: a single flame, spreading unnoticed at first, moving from one surface to another, climbing slowly, and then faster, not because it intends to, but because nothing here is built to stop it. The narrow streets that trap sound would also trap heat. The connected structures would allow the fire to move without resistance, and the people, surrounded by constant movement and noise, might not notice immediately, or might notice, but too late. You pause for a moment, standing still in a place that rarely allows stillness, and you realize something quietly unsettling: safety here is not guaranteed by prevention, it is dependent on chance. On small moments, on careful actions, on things that can shift. Without warning, the city continues around you, unchanged, unaware, unconcerned. But now, you carry a different awareness with you. Every flicker of light, every trace of smoke, every warm breath of air between the buildings, they no longer feel neutral, they feel uncertain. And as you slowly continue through the narrow Roman streets, surrounded by quiet flames hidden within everyday life, you may find yourself wondering something simple, not about if a fire could happen, but when. As you continue through the city, there is something else you begin to notice. At first, it's subtle, so faint that you almost ignore it: a change in the air, not the warmth of the sun, not the smoke from distant fires, something heavier, a scent that lingers just beneath everything else. You walk a little further, and slowly, that faint trace becomes clearer. It does not arrive suddenly, it builds, layer by layer. You try not to focus on it, but the more aware you become, the harder it is to ignore. The streets are still crowded. People move as they always have. Conversations continue, daily life unfolds without pause, and yet, this quiet presence exists alongside it all. You glance toward the ground. The stone beneath your feet is worn, uneven, marked by time, but now, you notice more than just its texture. There are darker patches, moist areas that do not fully dry, small channels where something flows slowly. Almost unnoticed, it is not dramatic, not overwhelming, but it is constant. You step carefully now, not out of fear, but out of awareness. There is no clear separation between clean and unclean here, no boundary that protects one from the other. Everything exists together. A doorway opens nearby, someone empties a small container into the street. The motion is casual, routine, no one reacts, no one pauses, because this is normal. You continue walking. The air feels thicker now, not just from the crowd, but from something that seems to settle into the environment itself. It clings to the ground, to the walls, to the narrow spaces between buildings where air does not move freely. You pass by a public area, a place designed for shared use. It is functional, practical, but not clean in the way you might expect. Water flows, but not always clearly. Surfaces are used again and again, without pause, without rest. There is movement here, but no renewal. You begin to understand something quietly unsettling. Cleanliness is not a priority in the way you are used to. It exists, but differently, more as a concept than a reality. You notice how people move through this space without hesitation, without discomfort, because for them, this is simply how life is. There is no expectation of anything else. You step back into the street. The flow of people continues. The sounds return to the front of your awareness, but the scent remains. It does not leave. Even as you move further away, it lingers in a subtle way. You begin to realize something that is difficult to ignore. There is no true escape from it, not in the streets, not in the buildings. It is part of the environment itself, woven into daily life so completely that it is almost invisible to those who belong here, but for you, it remains present. A quiet reminder of how different this world truly is. You imagine trying to rest here, to sit in stillness, to breathe deeply, and you wonder, would it ever feel comfortable, or would this subtle presence always remain, just beneath your awareness, never fully leaving? As you continue walking through the ancient streets of Rome, surrounded by life in all its forms, you may find yourself asking something simple, not about danger, not about survival, but about something quieter. Could you truly relax in a place where nothing ever feels completely clean? As you continue moving through the city, past the crowded streets, past the narrow alleys and worn stone paths, there is something you begin to notice, not in the buildings, not in the ground beneath your feet, but in the people. At first, it is subtle, easy to overlook. A slower step, the brief pause against a wall, a hand resting slightly longer than usual on a nearby surface. Nothing dramatic, nothing that draws attention, but it is there. You pass by a figure sitting quietly near the edge of the street. Their posture is slightly slumped, not in exhaustion alone, but in something deeper. Their breathing seems measured, careful, as if each breath requires a little more effort than it should. You continue walking, trying not to focus on it, but once you notice it, it becomes difficult to ignore. Another person moves past you, their pace uneven, their expression distant. Further ahead, a small group gathers, not in excitement, but in quiet concern. No one speaks loudly, no sudden movement, only stillness, and then, they slowly disperse. Life continues. The city does not stop for illness, it does not pause, it does not create space for recovery, it simply moves forward, carrying everything with it. You begin to understand something slowly. Illness here is not rare, it is part of the rhythm, as common as the sound of footsteps, as constant as the movement of the crowd. You pass by a doorway left slightly open. Inside, a dimly lit room reveals a quiet scene, a figure lying still. Another seated nearby, no urgency, no visible panic, only patience, as if this moment is expected. The air feels different here, and not heavier, but quieter, as though the world itself has softened. Just for a moment, you move on, back into the flow of the street, back into the sound and motion of the city. But something has changed. your awareness, you begin to notice how close everyone is, how easily people pass one another, how often contact is unavoidable. A shoulder brushing past yours, a hand reaching across a shared space, a surface touched again and again by countless others. There is no distance, no separation, and in that closeness, there is something unseen, something that moves without being noticed. You cannot see it, you cannot hear it, but you begin to feel its presence, not as fear, not as panic, but as a quiet understanding that in a place like this, illness does not need to search for people, people come to it, naturally, constantly. The city itself becomes a pathway. A network of movement, of contact, of shared space, and within that network, everything spreads. You pass by a fountain where people gather briefly. Some drink, some wash their hands, some simply pause before moving on again. It feels like a place of refreshment, a moment of relief. But even here, the same closeness remains. Nothing is truly separate. You begin to imagine what it would be like to live here, not just for a day, but longer, to exist within this constant movement, this shared space, this invisible exchange that never stops, and you realize something quietly unsettling. You would not always know when something is wrong. There would be no clear beginning, no obvious moment where everything changes, only small signs, subtle shifts, gradual awareness, until one day, you notice, and by then, it may already be too late. The city continues around you, unchanged, unaware, but now, you carry this understanding with you, that danger here is not always seen. It moves quietly, patiently, blending into everyday life so completely that it becomes part of it, as you walk through the crowded Roman streets, surrounded by people, by movement, by life itself. You may find yourself wondering something simple, not about where danger is, but about something far more uncertain. How would you know if it was already too close? Imagine the simple act of drinking water. In our modern lives, it is effortless, a turn of a tap, a glass filled, a sip taken with total confidence. In the Roman Empire, however, this most basic need was a subtle gamble, a quiet risk woven into the fabric of everyday life. The aqueducts, those magnificent feats of engineering, stretch across the countryside, carrying water from distant hills into the heart of Rome. They are elegant arches and flowing channels, monuments to human ingenuity, and yet even their brilliance cannot guarantee safety. Water pools in public fountains and cisterns, collected not just from pristine sources but sometimes from streams where livestock roam or where stagnant puddles mingle with runoff. The same water that glimmers under the sun may harbor unseen threats, tiny agents of illness invisible to the eye. Picture walking along a crowded street toward a stone fountain. The air is thick with the mingled scents of bread ovens, wet stone, and human activity. Children tug at their mothers' robes while men in simple tunics fill clay jugs. The fountain is a social hub, but also a quiet vector of danger. People touch the edges of the basin with grimy hands, and in the sun, algae gathers in subtle green blooms. Rome's water is cold and inviting, but beneath the surface, it holds the potential for disease, dysentery, fevers, and unseen bacteria that slip silently from mouth to body. Inside homes, water is stored in large ceramic jars or clay amphorae. Some families are fortunate to have access to filtered water from the aqueducts, while most rely on rainwater or river water, often stagnant by the time it is used. Imagine the quiet uncertainty of scooping water from a slightly murky vessel. There is no clear way to know whether it is safe. The warmth of the day can turn stored water into a subtle breeding ground for illness, yet for most Romans, there is no alternative. Thirst cannot wait, and drinking from these sources is a daily necessity, a choice made with blind trust. Even the wealthy, who enjoy private fountains and access to the higher quality aqueduct streams, are not entirely safe. Pipes of lead carry water through elegant villas, a slow, invisible danger that seeps into every sip. Lead poisoning, subtle but persistent, touches the lives of those who believe themselves insulated from the hazards of urban life. And yet, all continue to drink, unaware, trusting in the same routines their ancestors have followed for generations. In the public baths, the water flows in gentle channels and pools, seemingly clear and inviting. Romans immerse themselves for hygiene and leisure, but even here, water is a potential hazard. The mingling of hundreds of bodies, oils, sweat, and dirt can transform warm, calm baths into silent incubators for disease. Touching a stone edge, brushing past someone else's arm, a slight sip to quench thirst, all carry subtle risks, invisible yet present. Close your eyes and imagine reaching for a cup of water, feeling its cool surface, lifting it to your lips. In this empire of monumental achievement, every ordinary gesture is shadowed by uncertainty. The city itself hums around you, full of life and movement, yet every drop of water may carry invisible consequences. The danger is quiet, patient, and persistent, never loud or dramatic, but enough to remind you that survival here is an everyday negotiation with chance. The water you drink is not merely sustenance, it is a test of vigilance, an intimate dance with nature and circumstance. Each sip connects you to the city's rhythms, to the ingenuity that brought water from distant hills, and to the hidden perils of living in a world without modern filtration or knowledge of germs. Tonight, as we imagine a Roman raising a clay cup to quench thirst, we feel both admiration for their resilience and a subtle unease. Surviving in Rome is not about heroism in grand battles, it is about navigating these quiet threats, the hidden dangers in the most ordinary elements of daily life. Water, so essential and universal, becomes a symbol of the delicate balance the citizens of Rome walk every day, a reminder that even in a city of splendor, the simplest comforts are never guaranteed. As the sun climbs higher, and the streets fill with more people, the fountains glimmer in soft light, inviting yet treacherous. And you, quietly observing, feel the tension of this invisible challenge, the silent, patient risk that shadows every ordinary sip. In Rome, nothing is truly simple, nothing wholly safe, and even drinking water requires care, intuition, and perhaps a touch of luck. Imagine sitting down to eat in the heart of ancient Rome. The aroma of bread, roasted meats, and fresh vegetables seems inviting, comforting almost. Yet beneath these scents lies a quiet uncertainty, a hidden danger that touches every meal, every morsel, and every sip of food or drink. In the Roman Empire, eating was never entirely without risk. Markets bustle with merchants displaying their goods. Piles of grain, fruits, salted fish, and fresh vegetables crowd wooden stalls, bright in the soft sunlight. Buyers haggle over prices while children run between the legs of adults, laughter mingling with the clatter of carts on uneven cobblestones. But look closer, some produce is bruised or overripe. Meat sit in baskets under the open air, and small flies hover near the fish. Without refrigeration or consistent preservation, food is fragile, ephemeral, and vulnerable to rapid spoilage. Bread, the staple of daily life, is often baked daily in small brick ovens or clay hearths. While fresh loaves are warm and aromatic, leftover bread hardens quickly. Moisture and heat accelerate decay, leaving some loaves dry, brittle, or moldy. For the common Roman, wasting food is a luxury they cannot afford, but consuming spoiled food is a quiet, persistent risk. One bite might cause stomach cramps, nausea, or illness, yet hunger often outweighs caution. Imagine the preparation of a simple meal in a modest home. A pot of vegetables simmers over a small fire, salted meat sits in a clay dish, and bread rests on a rough wooden table. The cook, a member of the household or a servant, works carefully, aware that the food must last through the day. But the summer heat presses in, and in the absence of proper storage, even this simple meal carries uncertainty. Tiny microbes, invisible to the eye, lie in wait, ready to transform nourishment into discomfort or worse. Even the wealthiest citizens, dining in marble-clad villas under the soft glow of oil lamps, are not entirely safe. Exotic delicacies arrive from far-flung provinces, preserved with salt, wine, or vinegar, yet these methods are imperfect. Fish may carry parasites, meat may sour, and fruits may ferment in warmth. While the grandeur of a lavish feast dazzles the senses, each dish hides potential peril. The vulnerability of the body to subtle decay is universal, a reminder that survival in Rome is as much about vigilance as it is about strength or wealth. In taverns and thermopolia, small establishments serving ready-made meals, Romans grab a quick bite between work and errands. A steaming bowl of porridge, a piece of bread dipped in wine, or a portion of cooked lentils may offer sustenance, but hygiene is variable. The pots and utensils may be reused without proper washing. Water for cooking may come from uncertain sources, and open air allows insects to mingle with ingredients. Each meal is a silent gamble, taken because hunger cannot wait. Close your eyes and picture the daily rhythm of eating in Rome. The scent of roasting meat drifts through narrow streets. A family gathers around a simple table in a dimly lit home. Children nibble bread while adults scoop lentils or pour wine from a clay jug. Everything seems calm, even ordinary. Yet beneath this calm lies a quiet tension, the knowledge that what nourishes the body might also undermine it. Spoiled food, improper handling, or hidden contaminants are dangers woven seamlessly into the mundane. This subtle threat shapes daily life. It demands attentiveness, patience, and sometimes luck. Survival in the Roman Empire is not only about evading streets filled with crime or avoiding collapsing buildings, it is about navigating these invisible hazards. Present in every bite and every sip. Romans understand this instinctively, yet modern eyes see the danger with a clarity their ancestors could not. So as we imagine sitting down to a meal, let us feel the delicate balance of sustenance and risk. The city hums quietly outside, children laughing, merchants calling, and the sunlight filtering through narrow windows onto wooden tables. Every morsel consumed is a reminder that life in Rome is never simple, never guaranteed. Even nourishment, the most fundamental comfort, carries a quiet, patient danger waiting just beneath the surface of daily life. In this empire of grandeur and peril, the act of eating becomes more than survival. It becomes a subtle reflection on resilience, awareness, and the fragile beauty of ordinary life. Imagine waking before dawn, long before the sun has begun to cast its golden light across the city. In the Roman Empire, labor begins quietly, almost invisibly, as the city itself seems to inhale a slow, rhythmic breath. The streets are empty except for those whose work cannot wait, the bakers tending brick ovens, the porters carrying heavy loads, the artisans moving silently through shadowed workshops. Their day will stretch far beyond hours, a silent endurance that shapes life and survival in this vast empire. Physical labor in Rome is unrelenting. Picture a stone quarry outside the city walls. The air is thick with dust, carrying the faint scent of earth and stone. Workers, clad in simple tunics, swing hammers and chisels, their muscles straining under the weight of raw marble. Each strike echoes softly, a rhythmic percussion that reverberates against jagged walls. Sunlight filters through the morning haze, casting long, slow shadows across the quarry floor. Sweat beads on their foreheads, mingling with dust and dirt, their bodies bent in silent submission to necessity. Even in the city, labor is relentless, though less monumental. Consider the construction sites where new insulae rise along the streets. Wooden scaffolding creaks under the weight of men lifting timber and stone, their boots clattering against worn planks. Tools are heavy, materials coarse, and every movement exacts a toll on the body. There is no machinery to ease the burden, no shortcuts to lighten the load. Every brick laid, every beam hoisted, demands patience, strength, and endurance. In the quiet of the streets, porters and merchants carry heavy baskets of bread, wine, and goods. Each step is deliberate, each breath measured. The sun climbs higher, and the weight of heat adds to their strain. Passers-by may barely notice their effort, the rhythm of human labor blending seamlessly into the hum of city life. Yet for those performing these tasks, exhaustion is constant, pressing, and unavoidable. Even a brief pause becomes a luxury few can afford. Consider the artisans, potters, blacksmiths, weavers, working in small, dimly lit workshops. The air is filled with the scent of clay, smoke, and heated metal. Their hands are calloused, movements precise but tireless. Hours stretch into the afternoon, and still there is more to be done. The quiet persistence of these workers is a testament to human resilience, a slow, almost meditative endurance that requires every ounce of focus and energy. Now, imagine the lives of the slaves, who endure labor without recognition or rest. Fields outside the city, estates of the wealthy, and public works demand their constant effort. Their bodies bend to the sun and soil, unprotected from the elements, their labor unending. Even in this exhaustion, there is a rhythm, a quiet, persistent beat of survival and resilience. They are both the lifeblood of the city and invisible to those who walk past, their toil shaping Rome in ways both monumental and silent. By evening, as the sun begins to lower, workers return to their modest homes or crowded insulae. Their muscles ache, skin is smudged with dust and grime, and yet the city continues around them. Street noise persists, fires burn for evening meals, and the day's labor is reflected not in glory, but in fatigue and the quiet relief of having endured another sunrise to sunset. Close your eyes and imagine their world, the sound of soft hammers in the early morning, the faint creak of scaffolding, the rhythmic shuffle of boots on stone. There is beauty in this labor, if you watch quietly, human effort synchronized with the city's pulse. Yet there is also a tension, a subtle awareness that life in Rome is not gentle. Surviving each day demands endurance, patience, and a resilience that modern comfort rarely asks of us. Hard labor is more than physical exertion, it is a slow negotiation with the environment, with time, with the body itself. It shapes the day, the streets, and even the city's spirit. And in this rhythm of toil, one begins to understand how fragile and fleeting comfort truly is in a world without modern conveniences. Where survival depends on the quiet strength to endure, step by step, hour by hour, in Rome, exhaustion is a companion, a shadow that walks beside every worker. It is subtle, unrelenting, and woven into the very fabric of daily life, reminding us that the city's grandeur is built not just on stone and marble, but on the enduring, silent labor of countless individuals. Imagine the city of Rome not from the perspective of grandeur or wealth, but through the eyes of those whose labor holds the empire together, the slaves. Their world is quiet, hidden beneath the surface of streets bustling with citizens, traders, and officials. Every day is measured not by leisure or choice, but by duty, endurance, and the subtle tension of living under constant scrutiny. The dawn light filters weakly through narrow windows in crowded insulae, and the day begins for slaves long before most Romans awaken. Some carry water from distant fountains, balancing heavy clay jars with steady hands. Others sweep streets, move timber, or tend animals in the outskirts of the city. Their movements are precise, practiced, almost automatic, but always shadowed by the invisible pressure of expectations. Tasks must be done well, quickly, and without complaint. Imagine a slave in a wealthy villa. They rise silently, preparing the household for the day. Clay pots are filled, loaves of bread placed on tables, fires stoked to cook the morning meal. The family awakens, oblivious to the quiet rhythm of preparation and labor that allows their comforts to exist. Every motion is deliberate, a careful pour of water, a gentle placement of food, a soft footstep across the cool stone floor. In these actions lies both devotion and necessity, the invisible architecture of survival. Outside the homes, the lives of urban slaves are no less arduous. Narrow alleys twist between insulae, carrying the faint scent of waste, smoke, and the city's energy. Slaves transport goods through crowded streets, each step calculated to avoid collisions, each glance aware of the potential for reprimand or accident. The noise of the city, hammers on stone, merchants calling, children laughing, forms a backdrop to their endless tasks. Even moments of pause are fleeting, rest is a luxury often denied. In the countryside, slaves work the fields that supply Rome with its sustenance. Sunlight blazes down on the tilled earth, wind stirring the tall grasses, dust rising with every movement. Hands are calloused, backs bent, faces damp with sweat. Yet even here, amidst the isolation of labor, there is a quiet rhythm, almost meditative, a repetition that shapes endurance. The life of a slave is not just about toil, it is about navigating the invisible boundaries set by those in power, maintaining vigilance even in the simplest tasks. Consider the emotional weight of this existence. Slaves live in constant uncertainty. A kind word from a master may soften the day, a harsh tone may transform it. Their lives are intertwined with human expectation, yet largely devoid of autonomy. Moments of small joy, a shared smile, a whispered story, a quiet glance at the horizon, become precious, delicate breaths in a life dominated by obligation. In the grandeur of Rome, they are often unseen, yet their presence is indispensable, quietly supporting the city's pulse. Even as the sun lowers and shadows stretch across the streets and fields, the labor continues. Slaves return items to their proper places, sweep floors, carry water, and prepare the evening meal. Fatigue tugs at limbs, but the work must be done. The city itself seems to recognize this unending effort, the sounds of distant fountains, the subtle clatter of carts, the faint chatter of citizens, all led atop the quiet persistence of those who serve. Picture this, a young slave pausing for a moment in the soft glow of dusk, hand resting lightly on a clay jar, eyes following the fading light over terracotta rooftops. There is weariness, yes, but also resilience. The life of a slave in Rome is quiet, uncelebrated, and relentless. Yet it is also a life that bears witness to the endurance of the human spirit, to patience, and to the subtle dignity of simply surviving under conditions most of us can scarcely imagine. In this empire of marble, stone, and fire, the grandeur of Rome rests upon invisible shoulders. The life of slaves is woven into every street, every building, every meal, and every moment of calm or chaos. And though their world is hidden from the eyes of most citizens, it is essential, an unspoken reminder that survival in the Roman Empire is never easy, and that quiet endurance often carries more weight than glory. Imagine walking through the streets of Rome in the late afternoon. The sun is softening as it begins its descent, casting long, gentle shadows across uneven cobblestones. The city hums with the muted sounds of daily life, distant laughter, the clatter of carts, the occasional bark of a dog, but beneath this calm, there is an invisible tension, a quiet uncertainty that makes every step a careful negotiation. Crime in Rome is rarely violent in an overtly dramatic way. It creeps quietly, subtly, like a shadow moving along the edge of vision. Pickpockets glide past with practiced ease, their hands light and precise, unnoticed amidst the bustle of citizens haggling in the marketplace. A merchant counts coins on a wooden table while a figure brushes close behind, ready to relieve him of a few denarii. These small acts are not loud or chaotic, yet their presence is constant, a reminder that the city, for all its beauty and order, harbors invisible threats. Now picture a narrow alley winding between two insulae. The dim light of the late afternoon filters through gaps in the buildings, creating pools of shadow that seem to stretch endlessly. A lone figure carries a basket of bread home, glancing nervously over a shoulder. In these quiet corners, thieves wait patiently, relying on distraction and fatigue rather than force. The danger is subtle, almost imperceptible. Yet it is real. Every step, every gesture, carries a hint of risk. Even more organized forms of crime exist. Gangs of street children, older and more cunning, roam marketplaces and busy thoroughfares, coordinating quietly, taking what they can from inattentive citizens. Their mischief is not loud or dramatic, but it is effective, leaving victims bewildered rather than enraged. For the common Roman, vigilance is constant. One must observe carefully, move deliberately, and carry possessions with subtle care. Crime extends beyond theft. Some streets harbor occasional acts of aggression, heated arguments that may escalate, or sudden shoves that unsettle a pedestrian in a crowded space. In the quieter hours, particularly as dusk approaches, these streets feel more unpredictable. Shadows lengthen and the fading light softens familiar landmarks, making every turn feel slightly uncertain. The calm of the city is deceptive, beneath it lies the potential for misfortune at any moment. Consider the emotional landscape of this reality. Citizens, merchants, and travelers alike carry a low hum of awareness in every movement. Eyes flicker to shadows, hands subconsciously grip coins, and steps are measured. There is no panic, only the subtle, constant tension of navigating a city where the ordinary act of walking may require quiet calculation. Survival in this world demands both patience and vigilance, and even then, luck often dictates the outcome. Close your eyes and imagine yourself walking among them. The scent of fresh bread mixes with dust and the faint odor of animals. Children dart past, laughing, yet a sharp movement draws your attention. A hand brushes the edge of a cloak, a coin pouch slips silently into a nimble grip. Nothing dramatic, nothing violent, yet a quiet disturbance has passed unnoticed by most. This is the rhythm of crime in Rome, subtle, pervasive, almost a part of the city's pulse. Even the wealthiest Romans are not immune. Courtyards and private streets may offer some protection, but no lock or guard can completely remove the invisible tension that underlies daily life. The city itself seems aware of this duality, majestic in appearance yet threaded with quiet risks, a place of both opportunity and vigilance. In Rome, survival is as much about awareness as strength, as much about observation as courage. Crime does not roar, it slips softly between the moments, reminding every citizen that danger, even in its smallest forms, is always present. And as the sun sets and shadows deepen, the streets hold a slightly eerie calm, a tension softened by dusk, yet never entirely gone. Walking home through these quiet, shadowed streets, you begin to sense the delicate balance of daily life in Rome. Every day, citizens navigate commerce, conversation, and curiosity while avoiding unseen hands and opportunistic eyes. The city hums around them, beautiful, bustling, and quietly dangerous, offering a lesson in vigilance, patience, and the subtle awareness that defines life in the heart of the Roman Empire. As the sun dips below the horizon, Rome transforms. Streets that felt warm and lively in the day grow quiet, shadows stretching across uneven cobblestones. The golden light fades to muted grays and deep browns, and a subtle chill drifts through narrow alleys. Night in the city is calm, yet it carries an invisible tension, a quiet reminder that even in a world of grand architecture and bustling markets, darkness holds its own hazards. Imagine walking home through the city as dusk settles. Oil lamps flicker in the streets, casting soft, wavering light across worn stone walls. The air is filled with a mix of faint smoke from evening fires, the scent of damp earth, and the distant murmur of late travelers. Each step feels slightly heavier, each turn of the corner carries a hint of uncertainty. For Romans, the streets after dark are less forgiving, less predictable than the sunlit thoroughfares. Crime, subtle and pervasive during the day, shifts in tone at night. Pickpockets are still active, but shadows provide new opportunities. Thieves move silently, blending with darkness, their hands precise, practiced, and nearly invisible. Unlit alleys become quiet traps, where a misstep or moment of distraction can carry consequences. The city seems larger at night, each shadow deeper, each doorway darker, each sound amplified by the hushed ambience. Now imagine the insulae, the crowded apartment buildings lining the streets. Some are poorly constructed, leaning slightly in the quiet of evening, wooden beams creaking as the wind passes through narrow gaps. Upper floors are dark, windows shuttered, yet faint noises, coughs, whispers, the rustle of movement, remind residents that life never truly rests. Slaves, servants, and the urban poor navigate these structures carefully, aware that danger is not always on the street, it can exist above, below, and in the silent spaces between. Beyond crime, there are natural hazards. Uneven cobblestones glisten faintly in moonlight or from the residue of rain. Fires, always a threat in Rome's dense neighborhoods, are harder to detect at night. A stray spark from a hearth or cooking fire can leap silently to nearby buildings, and in darkness, the flames may spread before anyone notices. Even the simple act of walking becomes an exercise in awareness, each step taken with subtle care. Consider the emotional weight of this quiet vigilance. Citizens carry a low, constant awareness with them. Eyes flicker to darken corners, hands brush subtly against coin pouches, steps are deliberate. The city feels both beautiful and slightly menacing in this soft, dim light. Night amplifies the ordinary sounds and textures of Rome, the distant flow of water in a fountain, the whisper of wind across rooftops, the faint calls of late travelers or animals. Each sound is magnified, each shadow deepened. Imagine yourself in this quiet city. A lantern swings gently in a shop window, illuminating a patch of cobblestone. A cat slips silently along an alley. The faint scent of cooking fires drifts from a distant insula. A figure passes quickly, shadowed, perhaps watching, perhaps moving along their own path. There is no chaos, no dramatic violence, yet a subtle tension exists in every corner, a whisper of caution carried on the cool evening air. Nighttime in Rome is not simply the absence of light, it is a shift in perception, a gentle reminder that the city is alive in ways unseen. The grandeur, the architecture, the streets, all continue to exist, yet each element carries a slightly different meaning in darkness. The ordinary becomes slightly unpredictable, the familiar slightly mysterious, and every step carries an awareness that daylight often masks. As you imagine walking home under the soft glow of oil lamps, past shadowed alleyways and silent insulae, you sense the delicate balance of life in this ancient city. Rome at night is calm, reflective, yet quietly suspenseful, a place where ordinary survival requires vigilance, subtle observation, and respect for the hidden rhythms of the dark. In this empire of stone and fire, light and shadow, life continues even in quiet corners, reminding us that every day, every night, and every ordinary moment carries its own delicate challenges, shaped by circumstance, environment, and the ever-present pulse of a city that never fully rests. Imagine walking through the streets of Rome and entering a large public bath. Steam rises gently from warm pools, curling in the soft light that filters through high windows. The air carries a mix of scents: damp stone, warm water, faint perfumes, and the earthy aroma of the city outside. At first glance, the baths feel like a haven, a place of calm, relaxation, and communal comfort. Yet, beneath the surface of these tranquil waters lies a quieter, hidden reality. Public baths are central to Roman life. Citizens of all classes gather to wash, socialize, and relax. The largest facilities boast multiple pools, heated floors, and marble walls. Gentle sunlight streams through carefully placed openings, illuminating the steam in golden ribbons. Children splash quietly, older citizens chat softly, and the water laps in rhythmic, soothing waves. The scene is cinematic, peaceful, almost meditative, a moment frozen in time, but even in this serene setting, danger lingers. Water flows continuously from aqueducts and cisterns, carrying with it potential contaminants from distant sources. Without proper filtration, bacteria and parasites may find their way into these pools. Skin contact, accidental ingestion, or minor cuts can allow illness to spread subtly among bathers. Romans understand the risk instinctively, yet the comfort of warmth and cleanliness often outweighs caution. Picture a small group of citizens sitting on the edge of a shallow pool. Legs dangling in the water, soft steam rising around them. They exchange quiet conversation while attendants move silently, pouring hot water or tending fires for the caldarium. The marble glistens faintly, smooth under gentle touches. Yet in the calm, there is awareness, an unspoken vigilance. Each bather hopes for cleanliness but cannot see what lies beneath the surface. Consider the different pools within the baths. The frigidarium holds icy water, intended to invigorate the body after the heat of the caldarium. The tepidarium offers a comfortably warm environment for gentle relaxation. The caldarium simmers with heat, steam curling around every corner. Each pool serves a purpose, yet each also carries its own subtle risks. A simple swim may refresh the body but quietly threaten health if precautions are not maintained. Baths are also social spaces. Patrons discuss politics, business, and philosophy. Children play near shallow edges, slaves bring towels and oil for cleansing, and merchants sometimes offer snacks or drinks. The gentle bustle creates a calm atmosphere. Yet the presence of strangers introduces uncertainty. One does not know who may carry illness or what minor accident may occur in slippery, water-slicked corridors. The tension is invisible but ever present. Imagine yourself stepping into this ancient bath. Steam rises in curling wisps, warming your skin. The water ripples gently as you settle in, soft light glinting on marble walls. Voices are hushed, laughter restrained. There is comfort, yes, but also a quiet awareness, the sense that even in calm, communal pleasure, danger may linger just beneath the surface. The moment is meditative, reflective, and slightly suspenseful, a perfect blend of serenity and subtle tension. Roman baths are a study in contrasts. They are beautiful and functional, social and private, calming and slightly perilous. They reveal that in Rome, even acts of hygiene and leisure are intertwined with risk, requiring attentiveness and quiet mindfulness. For a visitor, they offer both a respite from the city's chaos and a gentle reminder that survival in the empire depends on awareness, even in moments of seeming relaxation. As you imagine leaving the bath, water dripping softly onto stone floors, the warm air mingling with the cooler evening breeze, the sense of calm remains, but so does the subtle knowledge of vulnerability. The baths, like the streets, the homes, and the very city itself, carry hidden stories, gentle lessons in caution, and quiet reflections on life in a world without modern safety. In Rome, even pleasure is layered with subtle tension. The public baths exemplify this balance perfectly, a space where calm, comfort, and communal life meet the hidden risks of an ancient, complex city. Imagine stepping into a grand Roman amphitheater as the sun begins to warm the stone tiers. The arena stretches wide and imposing, its architecture designed to impress and to hold thousands of citizens. Even in the soft light of morning or late afternoon, one can feel the magnitude of the space, the weight of its history, and the unspoken anticipation of the crowd. For the Romans, entertainment is never simply leisure, it is a spectacle that carries both fascination and a quiet, underlying tension. At first, the amphitheater appears calm. Citizens in tunics and togas settle into their seats, some chatting quietly, others observing the surroundings. Merchants move through the aisles selling figs, bread, and wine, their voices soft, blending with the gentle hum of conversation. The stone benches gleam faintly in warm sunlight, and the air holds the earthy scent of dust, sweat, and faint animal musk. It is a place designed for human experience, for connection and shared attention, yet the piece is fragile. The arena below is both captivating and intimidating. Gladiators prepare for the events, adjusting armor and weapons, muscles tensed in quiet concentration. Each movement is deliberate, controlled, honed through relentless practice. There is no chaos yet, only anticipation, the subtle awareness that every action here carries consequence. Spectators may feel awe, curiosity, or excitement, but even from the calm stands, there is an unspoken acknowledgement of risk. The performers' lives hang in delicate balance, and the city's fascination with entertainment is intertwined with the reality of danger. Consider the quieter moments before a match begins. A gladiator sharpens a sword, the glint catching the soft sunlight streaming through arches. Another adjusts a helmet strap, breathing slowly, aware that each heartbeat is part of a larger rhythm dictated by survival, skill, and discipline. Even the animals brought into the arena, lions, leopards, and other creatures, move with restrained power, silent but charged with potential energy. The calm before the spectacle is deliberate, almost meditative, allowing both performers and observers to absorb the scale and significance of what is about to unfold. The crowd itself is a reflection of Roman life. Citizens from different social strata sit side by side, sharing in the anticipation, exchanging soft commentary, or silently observing. Laughter, whispers, and gentle applause mingle with the faint clatter of sandals on stone, creating a layered tapestry of human interaction. Yet beneath this social harmony lies the understanding that entertainment in Rome is not without consequence. Blood may soon stain the sand, lives may be risked, and the boundary between spectacle and danger is thin, almost imperceptible from a distance. Imagine standing at the edge of the arena, feeling the warmth of sunlight on stone, hearing the gentle rustle of the crowd, smelling the faint earthy scent of sand and sweat. There is fascination, yes, but also a subtle tension, a quiet, almost hypnotic reminder that human endeavor, skill, and endurance are on display, fragile and fleeting. The amphitheater is both beautiful and slightly unnerving, a place where human curiosity meets the reality of mortality in soft, controlled waves. Even as the events unfold, the rhythm of the amphitheater remains measured. Actions are precise, reactions deliberate, and each movement carries intention. Observers learn to read the subtle signs, the tilt of a head, the tension in a stance, the quiet shuffle of feet. There is an unspoken dialogue between the performers, the animals, and the audience, a layered communication that is calm yet charged with energy. Entertainment in Rome is thus a complex interplay of fascination and subtle threat. It reflects the values, curiosity, and ingenuity of a civilization, yet it also reminds citizens that life is never without risk. Every spectacle, every movement in the arena, carries a story of preparation, endurance, and quiet resilience. And as the sun lowers, casting long shadows across stone tiers and arena sand, one can feel the lingering tension, the reflective awe, and the meditative quality that makes these moments both beautiful and slightly unsettling. In this space, Rome reveals itself as a city that celebrates skill and endurance while never hiding the delicate balance between life and spectacle, a quiet, reflective lesson in human curiosity, resilience, and the subtle interplay of danger and admiration. As you wander the streets of Rome, it becomes impossible not to notice the contrasts woven into the very fabric of the city. Marble villas with their polished columns and lush gardens sit just a few streets away from crowded insulae, where families share tiny rooms stacked like bricks in a wall. The difference is subtle at first glance, a shift in materials, in space, in light, but over time, the contrast becomes a quiet, almost melancholic rhythm, a reflection of the social hierarchy that governs daily life. In the wealthiest neighborhoods, the morning sun glints off polished stone and painted frescoes. Courtyards open to private gardens, fountains gurgling gently as servants tend to their master's needs. The air carries faint scents of perfume, freshly baked bread, and oils used to cleanse and anoint. Citizens stroll leisurely, adjusting to the soft cadence of a life largely free from hardship. The environment exudes calm, refinement, and privilege, a serene bubble that seems almost separate from the city around it. A few streets away, the scene changes entirely. Insulae rise high into the sky, their timber and brick facades worn and weathered. Narrow alleyways weave between buildings, carrying the sounds of daily life, the laughter and cries of children, the calls of street vendors, the clatter of carts. Families share small rooms, sleeping in shifts, washing in the same basin, and enduring the constant hum of activity. Light is filtered, dust hangs softly in the air, and the muted tones of brick, wood, and stone dominate the palette. The quiet tension of limited space and endless necessity lingers in every corner. Imagine the subtle ways inequality touches daily routines. The wealthy enjoy hot baths, spacious kitchens, and leisure that stretches across hours. Slaves attend to every detail, smoothing marble floors, preparing meals, and maintaining appearances. Meanwhile, the urban poor rise before dawn to fetch water, carry goods, and prepare food in cramped spaces. Each life is shaped by circumstance, one cushioned by privilege, the other pressed by need, and the city reflects this contrast in every stone and shadow. Even in shared spaces, such as markets or temples, the distinctions are evident. A merchant may approach a wealthy patron with bowed deference, offering fine cloth or fresh produce, while ignoring the figure with a tattered tunic waiting at the edge of the crowd. Observation reveals the quiet choreography of recognition, the subtle acknowledgement of rank and power that guides interaction. No words are needed to define status, it is visible, tangible, and gently enforced in the rhythm of the streets. Picture walking from a sunlit villa courtyard to a narrow insular alley. The temperature shifts slightly, the sounds of life change, and the palette of the environment moves from gold and marble to deep browns, muted greens, and dusty grays. There is a calm, almost meditative quality to the observation, but beneath it, a gentle tension persists, a quiet awareness that comfort and struggle exist side by side. Sometimes separated by only a single street, consider the emotional landscape of this reality. Privilege fosters calm confidence, a slow-paced rhythm of life that allows reflection and leisure. Poverty demands vigilance, endurance, and patience. Every movement and decision carries practical consequence. Both exist within the same city, intertwined yet distinct, creating a layered texture of human experience that is simultaneously beautiful, melancholic, and quietly instructive. In Rome, social inequality is not simply economic, it shapes relationships, opportunities, and daily perception. The city's architecture, streets, and routines reflect these differences, offering lessons in awareness, empathy, and resilience. Observing the contrast between wealth and poverty allows one to understand the delicate balance upon which daily life depends, a balance that requires mindfulness, endurance, and reflection. As the day moves toward evening, light softens across the city. Marble glows faintly in golden hues, while the insulae take on a muted, calm palette. The rhythm of life continues in both worlds, quietly, gently, and with subtle tension, offering a reflective glimpse into the intricacies of human society, the resilience of those navigating daily hardship, and the calm privileges enjoyed by the fortunate few. In this layered city, Rome teaches that observation is as valuable as action. To walk its streets is to witness the quiet disparities that define life, to sense the delicate interplay of comfort and struggle, and to reflect on the resilience, endurance, and subtle humanity that threads through every corner of the empire. As we approach the end of our journey through the streets, homes, and public spaces of Rome, it is worth pausing to reflect. Could you, with all your modern comforts, your clean water, soft beds, and structured routines, truly survive a single day in this ancient empire? The question is deceptively simple, yet its answer lies in layers of subtle challenges, quiet endurance, and constant awareness that would define every moment of life in the city. Imagine waking up in a crowded insula, sunlight filtering through narrow windows onto hard wooden floors. Your sleep has been interrupted by the hum of human activity, the creak of timber, the distant murmur of carts on cobblestones. Your body aches from a night spent in an uncomfortable space, perhaps shared with multiple others. Even the act of rising requires focus, careful steps on uneven floors, the awareness of low beams, the presence of neighbors nearby. Every moment is filled with the small negotiations of survival, unseen and uncelebrated. Outside, the streets are alive with movement and noise. Crowds press past, carrying goods, children, and the energy of daily life. Every step you take must account for obstacles, carts, animals, street vendors, and the ever-present risk of pickpockets. The modern habit of walking casually, with attention divided by thought or conversation, is not viable here. Vigilance must be constant, reflexive, woven into each breath and glance. The city does not pause for distraction. Now consider the necessities of survival: food, water, hygiene. In Rome, each carries hidden uncertainty. Meals may be spoiled or unsafe, drinking water may harbor unseen illness. Public baths offer refreshment and cleanliness, but also hidden risks. Even a short walk to a fountain, a quick meal, or a moment of rest in a quiet corner carries the possibility of harm or misfortune. Your choices must be deliberate, measured, and aware of the invisible hazards around you. Imagine the physical labor required for even ordinary tasks. Carrying water, Transporting goods or working in a household requires endurance, strength, and resilience. Muscles tire, energy wanes, and the heat of the day presses down. Modern life often insulates us from this constant exertion, but in Rome, the body is both instrument and limitation, shaping each decision, each movement, each interaction. Survival is as much about physical capability as awareness and adaptability. Social navigation is equally crucial. Understanding hierarchy, observing subtle cues, and maintaining proper conduct can prevent conflict or reprisal. A careless word, a misread gesture, or inattentiveness to context can turn a simple encounter into a moment of danger. The streets, homes, and public spaces of Rome are full of invisible rules, each demanding attention and sensitivity. To survive is to see not only with your eyes but with your understanding of people, context, and circumstance. Imagine stepping through this world with modern knowledge but ancient vulnerabilities. Each moment carries weight, the soft crunch of cobblestones, the murmur of a distant fountain, the flicker of light through shuttered windows. Every sense must work in harmony, every movement calculated yet natural. You begin to understand that life in the Roman Empire is not a spectacle, it is a sustained negotiation with environment, society, and circumstance. Could you survive a day? Perhaps. But the odds are delicate. One misstep, one oversight, or lapse in judgment can ripple quietly through the hours, creating consequences disproportionate to their cause. Modern life has trained us in comfort, safety, and convenience. Rome asks for constant vigilance, resilience, and adaptation. The challenge is not dramatic or violent, it is subtle, continuous, and deeply demanding, and yet, there is beauty in this reflection. To imagine life in the empire is to appreciate human endurance, resourcefulness, and the delicate balance that defines survival. Even in hardship, in noise, in disease, and in risk, the city thrives, and those who navigate it quietly demonstrate the subtle artistry of daily survival. Each day becomes an achievement, a quiet testament to the human spirit, so, as you settle into this thought, consider your own place in time. The comforts you take for granted, the routines that shape your life, and the calm predictability of modern existence, all contrast sharply with the vibrant, complex, and quietly perilous life of Rome. Survival there requires more than luck, it requires awareness, endurance, and a measured, mindful approach to every hour of the day. As the day draws to a close in the great city of Rome, the streets begin to quiet, the sun dips behind distant hills, and shadows stretch long across cobblestones and marble facades. The city that seemed vibrant and bustling in the morning now softens into muted tones of gold, brown, and green, bathed in the gentle light of dusk. There is a serenity in this transition, a calm after the subtle chaos of daily life. Reflecting on the world we have walked through, we see the delicate balance that defined life in the Roman Empire. Citizens navigated crowded streets, unpredictable buildings, and ever-present health risks. They labored in heat and exhaustion, experienced fleeting pleasures in baths and theaters, and were keenly aware of the invisible threats around every corner. Even the simplest act, drinking water, eating a meal, or walking home, required attention, resilience, and awareness, and yet, amid these challenges, there was beauty. The architecture inspired awe. The public spaces carried a rhythm of social connection. Daily life, though difficult, was punctuated with moments of reflection, observation, and human ingenuity. From the quiet of insulae to the grandeur of forums, from the laughter in markets to the soft lapping of bath water, life in Rome carried a rhythm both demanding and quietly mesmerizing. Consider the perspective we gain from distance. Modern life shields us from the constant tension and effort required to exist in the ancient world. We have comfort, safety, and predictability. But imagining Rome teaches us patience, awareness, and appreciation for the resilience of those who lived without these comforts. Every meal, every step, every interaction in the city required small acts of vigilance and endurance. Survival was not guaranteed, it was earned quietly, through mindful attention to the world and to oneself. As night settles fully, oil lamps flicker in windows, and the sounds of distant animals and occasional footsteps echo softly through the empty streets. The city breathes slowly, carrying both memory and life forward into darkness. Shadows play across insulae and villas, across markets and baths, revealing the layered textures of human experience. It is calm yet contemplative, a reminder that history is both the sum of ordinary moments and the grand sweep of human endeavor. Now, as we leave the streets of Rome behind, imagine yourself stepping into your own quiet space, the soft hush of evening surrounding you. The bustling city, with all its challenges and beauty, recedes into memory. You can feel the rhythm of the ancient world lingering gently, a whisper of resilience, reflection, and quiet wonder. It is a reminder that even in hardship, life carries moments of grace, subtle lessons, and gentle awareness. So tonight, as you settle into comfort and calm, let your mind wander through the streets, baths, and arenas of Rome, carrying the soft glow of oil lamps and fading sunlight with you. Reflect on the courage, endurance, and quiet artistry of daily survival in a world far removed from our own. Allow the story of this ancient empire to soothe, to intrigue, and to quietly guide your thoughts into rest. Good night, and may your dreams be as calm and reflective as the softly lit streets of Rome, carrying the echoes of an empire that, though distant, still whispers its stories through the quiet moments of history.